Privacy, protection of personal information. Privacy and cybersecurity are very closely linked. If we do not safeguard systems and passwords, then private and confidential information can be made public or get into the hands of criminals. In education, we are individually and collectively responsible for collecting and assessing a lot of private and confidential student and employee data. Student information may include enrollment and registration data, contact and guardianship information, program delivery, progress assessment, attendance data, and health information. Employee data may include personal contact information, banking information, and medical notes. It is critical that we properly protect this information. These best practices will help everyone to be more secure online. The use of technology is widespread in classrooms. We must, however, be careful how and where we use technology to record student personally identifiable information. We must also follow a process for disposing of personally identifiable information when it's no longer required or past its retention period. The Board's Administrative Procedure Records Information Management Aps-017 provides guidance and steps to help you comply. The Board provides centrally secured systems, meaning IT tools that have been fully reviewed and approved for use board-wide. These include the Board's Student Information System, ASPIN, IEP Writer, Desire to Learn, D2L, Microsoft Office 365, My Blueprint, and various other tools provided by the Ministry of Education or Wcdsb. You can also use your own network drive, for example, M Drive, but you will need to periodically clean that up the same as you might clean a classroom at the end of the year. This prevents keeping student personal information for longer than it is needed. You do not need to obtain parental permission or consent to use these approved board-issued tools. However, you may need permission or consent from some apps. This will be highlighted in the usage notes. Google products are useful for collaboration and engagement. However, student personal information should be limited to assignments and documentation related to student learning that is organized and purged yearly. Professional documentation related to communications, home, or contact information should be stored in one of the Board's approved student information systems, such as Aspen or Encompass. Digital copies of completed forms, for example A1, SS1, etc., should only be stored in the more secure Microsoft Office 365 environment where retention policies can be applied. Aps-017 Policy. Aps-017, Responsible Use of Information Technology and Electronic Data, guides board staff, students, and visitors when using information technology, regardless of whether you are in a school, at the board office, or working remotely. This policy directs users on the acceptable use of information technology resources and assets. Aps-017 works alongside other Wcdsb policies like Freedom of Information, Records Management, and Privacy Breach Protocol to safeguard personal information, confidential board records, and retention of the information that we use in our work and study every day. Information technology refers to any physical hardware such as laptops, printers, and learning devices supplied or managed by the board. Information assets include any records, data, forms, or other documents created or collected by the board. Information assets can include but are not limited to student personal information or demographics, curriculum plans, reports, the Ontario Student Record, finances, or any electronic or physical items that have informational value. Aps-017 now includes the rules for requesting and approving apps. Apps include websites, digital tools and resources, browser extensions, and specific applications that you may find in, for example, an app store. Aps-017 outlines what is approved, what is restricted, and what is prohibited. This helps Wcdsb establish and maintain a safe, responsible, and secure IT environment, and decreases the chances of unauthorized access that can lead to privacy and cybersecurity breaches. You can find Aps-017 on the Board Policies website. Approved Apps List. The Approved Apps List is the authoritative source for applications, digital tools, or other electronic resources that have been reviewed and approved by board experts to ensure safe and secure use of personal information. The Approved Apps List includes the name of the application, status of the app, green, yellow, blue, and usage notes for how the app should be used. Only approved apps will be published. You won't find read or unapproved apps on the list. We only publish what is approved. If you search for an app in the approved apps list and do not find it, it hasn't been approved. As of September 2021, there are over 350 approved apps that can be used by board staff and educators. Usage notes provide important details for how you can use the app safely. For example, limiting the amount of student personal information disclosed to vendors, how long personal information can be kept, and how to delete this information at the end of the school year. Other usage notes might provide guidance on whether the app can be used by students under the age of 13 or important points for integrating the app with the LMS Learning Management System. Each entry on the approved apps list has one of 3 colors depending on the status level. Green specifies that the application has been reviewed and approved by the board for safe use. Yellow means that it is approved but with certain conditions. Blue is approved for special education purposes only. If an app is classified as red or is not approved, it is prohibited. Aps-017 does not allow the use of a consent form to turn a prohibited app into an approved app. Only the app review process can do that. You can find the approved apps list on the Privacy, Records, and Information Management website through StaffNet. Click on the green checkmark icon to access the list. When using approved apps, consult the approved apps list before using the tool. Limit the personal information you enter into the tool. Use only what is necessary. Sensitive information like an Ontario education number should only be used in a very limited circumstance and only with approved apps. Use strong passwords. Check the age limit for the tool. Are there restrictions for under 13? If so, you may need to choose a different tool or get consent. Read the vendor's privacy policy. Has it been recently updated? Are there new requirements? Ensure that parents or guardians only have access to only their own child's information. Remember that anything you share may be made public by those you share it with. Be prepared to delete the information stored in the app once the students move on to a new class, the same as you might clean up your classroom at the end of the school year. New app request and review process. The app approval process follows a workflow that includes assessment by the following areas: budget approval, pedagogy, IT, security, privacy, and procurement. In some cases, IT will need to do a final review before deploying the app. The approved apps list documents all applications and resources available to staff and educators. This should be the first step when looking for an app or digital tool to use. Also refer to the app request list to see the status of requested apps. If an app or tool you are looking for is not listed in the approved apps list and there is no reasonable alternative, submit a new app request through the Help Desk portal on StaffNet. Depending on app, you may require approval before you can submit. You can also ask for help from the school principal, librarian, or consultant who can submit the new app request on your behalf. Before you submit a request to review and approve a new app, gather as much information as you can about it and how it will be used. This includes what? The name and the URL for the app or resource. Plan how this app will be used in a classroom or virtual environment. Find. Provide the link to the policy and terms and conditions pointing out how personal student information will be kept confidential. And budget. Identify any relevant costs. If there are any associated costs, submit a quote request as per the Aps-017 Policy. The quote request can also be accessed through StaffNet. Be sure to include any other relevant criteria, such as additional links, attachments, or images to assist with the review process. Staff and educators should never purchase a digital app on their own for school use. Other considerations around the protection of student personally identifiable information include: do not store personally identifiable data on your personal device, including phone, tablet, or home computer. Access and use services through a secure web portal such as Google Drive or Office 365. Avoid downloading documents locally to a personal device. If you do, you will need to manage and delete the files once you are done so you do not accidentally create a privacy breach. If your home computer or phone is accessed by others, this could result in a privacy breach. You have a responsibility to limit access to board resources, including information and even when it is stored on your personal device. This point is also applicable to board office HR and business departments. Avoid sending personal information in emails if possible. This can easily result in an unintended privacy breach. Instead, try using a secure link to your OneDrive and share the document that way. If you are sending emails with personal information, limit what is in the message to only that which is necessary. Be diligent and double-check the recipients in the to, CC, or BCC lines to confirm you're sending to the correct people. Don't forward email threads that contain student personal information. There are situations when you are permitted to share student personal information. For example, when two educators are coordinating a lesson plan. However, unless there is a specific reason to share and it is related to a job or task you are doing, you should not be indiscriminately sharing personal information as part of a casual conversation. When handling and managing student personal information off-site, remember to secure it and apply safeguards to all forms of private and confidential information. This includes papers in a briefcase, applications from an approved apps list, and any other applicable records. In general, do not email OSRs. Use secure methods for sharing. Reference the How to Share Files Using OneDrive secure links, as outlined on the Privacy and Records Information Management webpage on StaffNet. In general, do not use your home computer for board office business unless everything you do is online and stored on board servers. Take photos and videos for assessment purposes using personal devices. Use board-issued devices and make sure to delete when done. Do not post student personal information on social media without clear consent from parents, custodians, or the student themselves, for example, if over 16. You need to use a consent form found under APC-023, APC-023-02F before sharing information about your students and their achievements. Remember that under the law, personal information can be more than just a name. It can be anything that could reasonably identify someone, even if you don't use the person's name. Refer to the board's administrative procedures on electronic mail and social media use guidelines, APS-035, for guidance. Other considerations. The Student Information Collection, Use, Disclosure Notice, APC-023, is a policy that includes forms for routine use of personal information. The annual Notice of Collection is part of the September package sent home with the student. It notifies parents or guardians for routine collection, use, and disclosure of student personal information by the board and the reason for doing so. This includes the OSR, student progress, contact and emergency information, etc. The Wcdsb Chromebook and Google Education Fundamentals Support Resources page is a framework of remote and virtual learning tools with instructions for educators working with elementary and secondary school students. It also contains directions and videos for applications such as Google Meet, Google Classroom, and Microsoft Teams. The APC-040 Privacy Breach Protocol Policy guides board responses to unauthorized access, use, or disclosure of personal information. All WCDSB staff are responsible for reporting any privacy or security breaches to the Privacy, Records, and Information Management Officer using the Privacy Incident APC-040-01F online form. Privacy breach responses have 4 steps. 1. Respond and contain. 2. Assess. 3. Notify. And 4. Implement changes to prevent future breaches. Sometimes we can get excited about a new way of teaching and learning, but if it means handling personal or confidential data or putting information online in a third-party tool, we all have a professional responsibility to carefully consider the privacy implications beforehand. Remember that education is a top target for cybercriminals. Make sure that you always properly protect student and staff personal data. Before you share, make sure it's safe.